starting the recording now. Okay.
Hello.
Do you
I do. Is it on? Probably not.
have? Okay.
Hello, everyone. Good. Is it still the morning? Good morning. So John and I are going to talk a little bit about how you can use AI tools to hopefully help your personal productivity. We're going to focus a little bit on productivity at work, but then also like other fun ways that you can use some of these tools, which I'm excited to talk about.
And we'd encourage you, before we go any further, to download these slides by either aiming your phone at the QR code and following that link, and it'll ask you if you want to, or by typing in that URL, and it will ask you to download a copy of these slides, which you can always use if we update this in the future to get a new version, but by downloading the newest copy from the old copy. So that way you always get the most recent copy. But hold on to these if you want to find out more in the future, because we'll probably offer variations of this in the future. And we also encourage you to open your own preferred AI tool. ChatGPT no longer requires a login if you're just using the free version. Claude does require one, but you can log in with your Google account, and it just takes a minute or two to set up the account. Those are probably the two most popular ones, and those would be fine. But you might also, does anyone have this besides? Should have copied that into chat, but we'll come back if anyone needs it. And okay, magnet. So you've got the URL and paste it. Okay. So there's other things you can do, and we encourage you to try these. We'll just mention these briefly. If you want to enable AI features in your Chrome browser, as long as it's not controlled by the cloud. I don't know if you can do it if it's a cloud-controlled computer.
Mine works now,
It does?
but
Okay.
it took a while for it to like start working.
Well, there's two things. You can enable it in Google Search with your account, and you can also enable it in Chrome itself, so it can work either way, either with Chrome or just in the Google Search, no matter what browser you're using. And the way this has changed, the directions, if you do a search for directions, you probably won't find this. It took a while to find the most recent version. Versions that Google posted, say, 3 or 4 months ago are no longer valid because they change things around, as they do. But this seems to work, or at least it worked last night when I put these together. So click on the 3 vertical dots in the upper right-hand corner of Chrome. And from there, you'll see a menu that should pop. Click on Settings, and you should see a left bar menu if you're on a laptop, where you could then choose Experimental AI, which should be on the list. Scroll down to that, and then just turn on the experimental AI features when that menu pops up. And it also gives you the option of turning on a tab organizer. So try that if you'd like to. It's nice to have the availability. You can always turn it back off again by just reversing these steps. But it's generally harmless, and it doesn't, take up much time. So is that working for anyone, or did anyone encounter problems trying that?
The cool thing about this is if you do like a search for something, right? Well, I know you're going to get to the Google thing in the next slide, but if you do a search for something, you'll get like, your list of top hits and what have you, but you'll also get kind of like a really interesting, like an AI generated summary that comes at the very, very top. And that's the cool thing, because, you can kind of like, I like to kind of skim the summaries before I then go through and like continue looking for more information. So that's kind of like the way it looks, is you'll see kind of like a blurb of stuff at the top, and then you can go through and do like your regular search beyond that.
And you can expand it and so forth. It'll give you a short version of it, and then you can click for an expansion and get more. Another thing you may want to do, just for fun, is to enable AI features in Google for any browser that works with your account. So what you do is open Chrome, or any browser for that matter, and go to this address. If you downloaded the slides, you can just click on that link and it should take you right to a page. This is a new feature or a new way of getting to this in just the last month or so. And it should work. So, we'll try that. And then in the menu, we'll get a series of choices. One of which is AI overviews, and another is AI tools for browsing. And basically, there's a little slider. The sliders to the left, those tools are not activated. If they are to the right, then they're already activated. And that should give you automatic Google tools whenever you do a Google search, when you're logged into that account. So it could be your college account, it could be your personal account, and it's only setting up for whatever account that you happen to be connected to. Honestly, I haven't tried this with a college account, but it does work with my personal.
Okay.
God help us with this one, because I didn't know how to do this. And he helped me through it. So we'll have him.
Sharing a link to the slides
This
and
part is his forte.
I would just go back, I usually have some names, but I've been missing a little bit. So let me go here and I will put this link to the slides right into the chat. And that way, all the links embedded in here will have.
Your personal computer.
And again, so ask you to have a user override, sending about this time. But that way you'll have, and again, if you want to upload this, if you do a certain business in the future, which is probably right. All you have to do is go to the website again and download this copy and we'll upload anything that makes sense. Okay, so, any questions on
John, John, it's Amy. We're having a hard time hearing you. We are hearing Stephanie in the background. I don't know if it's just me.
Sorry about that, Amy. There was a question in the room.
I think Stephanie was just, it's showing up that I'm maxing out the volume on the mixer here.
You're good. You're good now. It was just, I think, because we're hearing both of you, so it was hard.
Oh, you were talking about there and
Mhm.
picking up.
Yep. Sorry about that, Amy.
She was talking.
That's all right.
But it was. Okay, so, another thing you can do is if you use Edge, I use Edge only to play with AI. Usually the main purpose of Edge is to download Chrome or Firefox or something else. But, if you do have this and go to Microsoft, and so forth, and in the Edge browser. And what will happen is it will let you install Edge if you don't already have it. If you've got a Microsoft computer in recent years, you have Edge. It's their version of Chrome, where it's Chromium based. It's a good browser. And basically download Edge if you don't have it, or if you already do it. If you go to this page, it also allows you to download the Copilot app. And the Copilot app is basically a slightly tweaked version of ChatGPT 4, which is now the public release, but basically it was a little bit ahead of it. But it also gives you access to DALL-E, so you can use it for image generation as well, which you can't do without a paid account or without paying per creation if you're using the OpenAI's version of that. Okay, now, and when you're in Edge, if you're in Edge and you do a search using Kane, which is Microsoft search engine, you'll see the Copilot icon to the right of the search, followed by a deep search option. If you just want a summary page of the sort that Google will give you automatically if you have the AI tools installed, this will give you the OpenAI version of that. And if you do a deep search, you're getting directly a ChatGPT powered search summary. And if you open Copilot, you have access to basically ChatGPT through Microsoft's version, because Microsoft dumped hundreds of millions of dollars into OpenAI and has the rights to use it in their Copilot version. Okay, so did anyone have any problems or try these things? It would be really helpful if you have some tool open. It could be one of these, but it's probably just as easy to use ChatGPT or Claude, which are the most powerful ones out there for the purposes of what we're talking about. Okay, now you have a demonstration here. Would you like to?
I do. Can everybody on Zoom still hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so what I'm gonna do is actually swing over to Claude. And I already logged in. So just as kind of like a friendly reminder, in order to use Claude, you do need to create an account. There are free versions and paid versions. So I'm using the free version right here, just so that you can see, like what that looks like and what some of your options are. So one of the things that I'm going to do is demonstrate how you can use Claude to transcribe. So I thought this was pretty fun. I stumbled across this actually just yesterday. And I know that, lots of people have laptops, people take notes on their laptops. But I personally, I get distracted if I go to a meeting with a laptop because it's right in front of me and my email is always open. So I actively try to go to meetings with a notebook so that I can take notes that way. I find that it keeps me more engaged. So anyway, what I'm going to do is show you how to transcribe some handwritten notes to typed out notes in Claude, which is one of the features that you can do in the free version. It's worth mentioning that in the free version, you do have a limited number of attempts. So I think it's like 10 or something per day. And then after that, you have to wait 24 hours until the next day, and then you can go in again and do more. So they do kind of limit how much you can do. So one of the things, if you're looking for this later, right, after our presentation, if you're on the main page, and it's showing you right here, oh, here are some of the things that you can do in Claude, right? And if you load more examples, then it will actually show you how you can transcribe handwritten notes, right? So it is right here also. So what I'm going to do is I took a picture of my notes and I'm going to move those notes into Claude so that you can see what it looks like. So I'm going to go here. And I downloaded my notes right here, and I'm going to open. Where is this? I need to drag this back over again.
That is going to be inputting. By the way, ChatGPT 4, the paid version does the same thing, the Omni version.
So these are my top secret notes from a writing center conference that I went to about a month ago. These are not written very nicely because I was rushing. And it went through. And, I know that you can't see my picture that great, but it did go through and it pulled out the majority of the stuff that I had written on my piece of paper. This time, so yesterday, it actually included a word on my piece of paper that it couldn't read. I think I wrote the phrase "do not," and Claude thought that I said donut. So that was kind of funny, but today it didn't do that. And it, it goes through and it basically just kind of puts all my notes right there for me. Super nice. And I think that this is a really nice option, right? Not only for us, but also for our students. And like I said, I was not trying to make my handwriting I purposely chose this example because my handwriting was bad. So, and then this is a really nice option. So you can do this. Like I said, you do have a limited number of attempts. It told me somewhere the other day how many attempts I had, but you can just go through and you can upload your images and have it transcribe your notes for you. So I think that's a pretty fun thing. Does anybody have questions about that on Zoom or in the room? Yeah, Jill.
Really
I
cool.
just tried it with a mind map that I did with 4 pictures, different parts of a mind map.
Yeah.
Didn't work.
Oh,
So,
bummer.
It seems like it's just for text.
Just for text.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the current version of ChatGPT, the paid version, will interpret things and it will describe these things. So it will tell you what the image is. If you search for any of the videos created recently by OpenAI, about 3 weeks ago, they had a couple of videos they released where they did an interview with the chatbot they had, where there was a human-like figure that looked incredibly realistic, and they asked it, what does it look like? What do you see? And then they described that there was a person sitting at a desk with a camera behind them and with a microphone. And then they asked it, what do you think we're doing? And it said, well, it looks like we're recording either a video or some type of a live stream or maybe a podcast. And it said, well, what are you doing? And so there was a whole conversation basically between this chatbot and the person with really good inflection. So if you have a paid version, you may want to put it on your phone. Now, the video recognition has not fully been up there, but it will do the same thing. You can use your phone camera to take a picture of handwritten notes and it will transcribe them for you. But again, you do have to pay $20 a month to get that right now. But many of those features will be rolled out to everyone except for some of the voice dialogue. That's something you do have to pay the extra for. And some of the video recognition requires a paid account, at least for now.
So for the people on Zoom, Jill asked a question that like she tried to upload like a mind map to this with like a couple, like 4 different images, right? You said, Jill, and it had text also?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it didn't do so well with that. So again, like this is just the free version. It's, you know, so it's going to be more basic, but it is nice to know that this is available, right? You know, if you want it. Did anybody on Zoom have any questions?
It's so cool.
Thanks, Deb. All right. So let's go to the next one. So this is my face, please forgive it. Okay.
This is, by the way, active right now in Zoom. If you go to your Zoom screen and you click on the AI companion, you can ask it questions about what it's heard so far. It uses Otter.ai, which is the transcription service that's built into this, and it analyzes that. So you could ask it questions about what has been covered up to this point, what has been discussed, and ask who said what and so forth. Here, it's all going to look like Celt is talking, or Kelt is talking. But if you had different people in a Zoom conference, it would recognize the names and give a summary of what each person said.
So the reason that I put my silly face here is that I circled like on the screen, right? Like where the AI companion and where the start summary buttons are. So I circled them in red toward the bottom. So you can see like what John was just talking about. That's what you can click if you wanted to enable any of these features in Zoom. So I'm going to show you. Did you have something to add, John?
Yeah, one thing is,
Yeah.
if you enable this in your Zoom meeting, it will also generate a meeting summary, which is actually more accurate than most transcripts. You can always correct it, and it gets emailed to you if you're the owner of the account when the session is done, a couple of minutes later. So it's a really nice feature, and we do that in nearly all of our workshops, and we've been doing that for a few months now.
It's pretty fun. So here is a screenshot from my laptop. Let me move this for the people in the room. So I just did like something really goofy yesterday. So the quick recap of the meet, and like this was like 3 minutes, right, of me sitting in my office talking to my computer. So I started by stating the itsy bitsy spider because my daughter is really into that right now. So and then after that, I pretended to check in with some imaginary people in my office about, you know, like how we've been doing so far this summer. They didn't have much to say about it. So then I like sang Twinkle Twinkle Little Star like at the end because my daughter's also really into that. So you'll see that like it did a pretty good job kind of like recapping. And John and I, you know, like he said, we've done this like in different meetings, you know, when we were playing around with it. And it does do a pretty good job kind of following along the conversation, which is interesting.
And it also provides a next step. So if there's things that were agreed to in the meeting that people will do later, it will summarize that. So you have a record of that, which you can then forward to everyone in the meeting, so they are reminded of what they agreed to do by your next meeting if it's an ongoing task.
And like in this case, because my meeting was 3 minutes long, the recap and the summary are roughly the same size, right? But that will change, you know, like if you have something that's a little bit more robust. But it was just something goofy to do so that I could show you sort of like what it looks like. And it generated the summary and emailed it to me like within probably 5 minutes. I'll say like within 3 to 5 minutes or so. It might take a little bit longer depending on, you know, like the length of your meeting, but you know, it did come through pretty promptly, which was nice. Does anybody have any questions about, yeah, Sarah?
So the meeting host has to enable it, so a participant.
Yes.
cannot enable it.
Yes.
Yep. So,
And you have the option of enabling it for everyone from the beginning or only from the time people arrive. So if you have a meeting where there's some discussions between smaller group, we might enable it only from when people arrive. But usually we just enable it for the whole session so that if someone arrives late, they can, or if they decided to go off and get breakfast or something during a really long meeting, they can ask it for a recap of what's happened in the previous half hour or the last hour. You can also ask, was my name mentioned? And that way you can find out if people realize that you were missing while you were having breakfast, for example.
so
Did realize you were missing and which one?
And that's another way you can find in terms of that, next steps later.
So for the people on Zoom, Sarah asked, is this something that the host can enable or can participants enable it? And the answer is that this is something the host can do. You can also set it up, like if this is something that you really like, you can set it up in your Zoom settings to just automatically like happen at the beginning of every meeting so that you don't have to remember to push the button. Or, you know, if you would rather kind of like do it on the fly, then, you know, don't set it up in your settings and let it go ahead that way.
And one thing to be careful with is if you have discussions before the meeting starts, you may want to turn your microphone off so it's not picking up those. We, at one point, we were doing this in one of the reading group meetings and Jessamine was talking to us about her new job at Syracuse before she had officially announced it. So we had to reset that and start it over again because we realized we didn't want people to go in and find that, you know, they were going to be surprised because she had just gotten the job and she hadn't had a chance yet. So be careful with using it because it won't record everything from the time it's turned on, even before you start any meeting inputs.
And like, you know, do take some of it with a grain of salt. So like, for example, you know, we were in a meeting not that long ago and we were talking about SUNY Oswego and in the transcript, it's spelled SUNY Sunny, right? And it was all lowercase. So like, it doesn't pick up everything perfectly. So do keep that in mind also.
And that would be a very serious hallucination. We go to
Sunny Oswego. Yes, we know that that is rarely a thing. Does anybody on Zoom have any questions or comments for us about this before we move on?
Okay, here.
Cool. All right. So this is where some maybe fun things will happen. So, you know, we think about, and like, we can do more sessions also that talk about, you know, like generating email and, you know, like meeting minutes and stuff like that. But, we wanted to keep this part of it a little bit light. Because we've been talking about lots of serious stuff this morning.
And we'd encourage you to right now, try this. And do you want to talk about prompt engineering?
yeah.
We have a session on that later that Stephanie will be doing.
Yep. So I thought like it would be fun to go through maybe like one of these, you know, like with everybody and then give you a moment to explore something that you might use, you know, like in your personal life, which I think is really fun. So, you know, like we think about generative AI as like helping us be more productive at work. But it's actually pretty helpful, like in other ways also. You know, I was telling people a couple of months ago, I was helping with a fundraiser for the YMCA. And one of the things that we were doing were putting gift baskets together. And I'm terrible at putting gift baskets together because I feel like there's like 3 themes, whatever. So like I used ChatGPT to help me come up with different theme ideas for gift baskets. And it was wonderful. It just kept generating more and more and more. And it told me exactly what to put in them and whatever else. And it was great. So like for those aspects of our lives too, I think it can be really helpful. The thing that I'm going to demonstrate with you before you try out one of these on your own are just some like basic things to keep in mind when you do prompt these tools to give you stuff. So if you're thinking about prompt engineering and what that means, there are usually 4 components that you want to kind of keep in mind. And that is tell the AI tool the role that you want it to take. So for example, let's say that I'm a student in like my English 102 class. I would say act as an 18-year-old student at, at a college. Then you give it the task. So you tell it what you want it to do. I want you to write an essay about, beagles. And then after that, you give it whatever requirements that you might need, so like this essay should be 500 words. You should write in complete sentences and in paragraph form. And then any additional instructions that you might have for it to keep in mind, right? So like perhaps, like it needs to be like in MLA style or something like that, right? So like any extra stuff that you might need to tell it, but you want to keep, and John, I'm not going to talk about this too much now because John and I have a session on prompt engineering next week on Monday. So we'll talk a lot more and we'll do a lot more hands-on things then. But you want to generally think about those criteria when you are prompting these tools. These 4 things will generally get you a better result. So I'm going to go out of here for a second. And let's do Claude again. So people in the room, because I can see your faces, which one of these things on the screen, meal planning, workout plans, reading recs, or travel plans are you most interested in?
While you're thinking about that, one interesting use of meal planning is I've seen many people use as an example, they list things in their refrigerator and ask it to come up with a meal with those ingredients so they don't have to go shopping or create the same meal again that they had the last few days.
Yep. Anybody in the room drawn to one over the other?
On radio today, I heard a thing about stock your pantry with like ingredients that you could use for a 15-minute meal instead of like going out. So
Yeah.
we ask it to give us some strategies for what to have on hand to make 15-minute meals.
Yep. So Allison wants us to explore how to do 15-minute meals. So I'm in Claude right now. So I'm going to start a new chat and I'm going to say act as a working professional who hates to cook complicated things.
Professional.
Create 5 15-minute meals that can be made during a busy work week.
Can we do recipes?
Ooh,
Because it might just describe.
Yep. Oops, typing. That can be made during a busy work week. Each recipe should,
let's have high protein and low starch.
any additional instructions for it?
Always include vegetables.
Vegetables are a must. Are there any vegetables that we should avoid, Allison?
Mushrooms.
Yes, mushrooms.
But no mushrooms because they are gross. Okay, perfect. Because they're squeaky. Yeah, for me, it's asparagus. Whoa. All right, here we go. So we've got our act, we've got our instructions, everything else. So let's see what it does. I'll let it generate and then we can go through these real quickly together. So Allison, you've got a spicy shrimp and broccoli stir fry. And then we would probably have to tell it, like the order, like a better recipe, you know what I mean? Like actually write out the recipes instead of kind of generally summarizing them. You've got a Greek yogurt chicken salad, tuna and white bean salad, beef and zucchini skillet, and an egg and spinach breakfast wrap. How's that sound, Allison?
I like the wrap. That sounds good.
Is that the only one you like?
I like more of them, but I would substitute like the shrimp and tuna or something else.
So something that you can do, right, because these are conversational, is if you don't like the output, you should tell it, right? So I don't like any of these except for the wrap. Can you give me 4 additional options? And let's see if it does any better for Allison. Okay, so now she's got turkey taco lettuce wraps, chicken, vegetable protein bowl with lentils and stuffed peppers.
And then if you wanted to, you could have some more detail in terms of how long
Yes.
it's cooked and so forth.
Yep.
For any of those.
So can you please provide the whole recipe with,
Or cooking instructions.
yeah. For each of these. I like to be polite because we don't know where the future is headed.
And there you go.
And here it is. So now Allison has a whole bunch of recipes that are high in protein and can supposedly be made in 15 minutes or less.
And no one starts with no mushrooms.
With no mushrooms for Jill. That's right. Yep, yep.
So now if you would try one of these and see how it works with Claude or ChatGPT.
So as John mentioned, you no longer need, and you don't need an account to use ChatGPT anymore. So if you go, you can just go to Google and type in ChatGPT and it will take you right to the website. And the site will look like this. I'm doing this, but nobody can see me. The site will look like this. And you can go ahead and you can kind of model what we put in with any of our suggestions. Okay, great. Yes. So that's interesting from Amy. I popped a similar prompt into ChatGPT and got the recipes right away.
You get different responses at different times.
Yep, for sure. So I'll pull this up again, just in case you need inspiration, but you could literally anything in your personal life, go ahead and throw it in there.
And if you do have a paid account, you may want to try that because you'll get much more detail and much better responses.
We'll give everybody a minute.
One of the nice things about the Omni version of ChatGPT
You'd be left.
is it will now cite sources, so it will cite internet sources for accounting material, which makes it a lot more useful.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. Interesting. I went off script because I've been doing the recipes with you, so what I should do with my kids this summer in Central New York.
Oh, there you go.
It gave me stuff, but then I said, one of them was go to food and cultural festivals, and I said, well, what festivals are there? In this summer, with dates and performances, and the only thing is, it gave me Skinny Atlas Dickens Christmas, December 15th. But the rest of them are right.
And we'll listen, especially the free version. One thing we didn't note in the session is that ChatGPT 3.5, or even ChatGPT 4 is not as accurate as it was 5 or 6 months ago. They made it a little more efficient to reduce some of the energy uses. And the difference between the paid and the free versions are increasingly dramatic.
Look at all this. So then I said, you only gave me, what about food festivals? And then it gave me a bunch of food festivals. That's cool.
So ChatGPT, GPT, are you able to, when you got sent in, are you able to download your results?
Well, you can always copy and paste it, and I think you can link to it. And I'm not sure about the free version.
You can just copy.
Yeah, but
ChatGPT, you can just
the
copy.
presentation.
I've been asked. I've been asking
Claude to give me ways to make mac and cheese, which is the only thing my kids will consume these days, healthier. And it's giving me all kinds of ideas on how to add more protein to mac and cheese, because it's the one thing I can count on that I'm eating, but also how many boxes of mac and cheese in one go through.
You can ask.
And well, so it told me I could add Greek yogurt to it to get more protein instead of some of the milk, and then it said I could use like an unflavored protein powder, which I didn't really think about because mostly protein powders are like vanilla and chocolate. Or at least that's what I
Nicely with vanilla.
right, which would work nice for like desserty things, but yeah, it's really.
Mine have some interesting responses.
Anybody in the room have some interesting responses? Sarah?
Yes, so, a friend of mine proposed that we travel to Spain next November for a yarn, like a knitting trip. So I put in the chat GPT, a X age woman, I don't know, X age person wants to go to a 7-day trip to Spain. To look, the person who's interested in sewing and yarn and knitting, wants to take a trip to Spain for 7 days, and so it gave me an itinerary traveling from different cities. And then I said, can you give me it suggested some cultural things I might like to do since I'm into crafts. And then I said, can you give me some specific yarn and fabric stores I can visit? And it gave me a list of those in each of the cities. And then I said, can you repeat that list and include the websites? And it gave me the websites. So the only thing that I will observe is that I don't know if it's right. So I don't have, as Jill was able to check with the Central New York offerings and knew that the Dickens Christmas was, well, I guess you would know that anyway from the Christmas theme, that it's not summer. I don't know if these are accurate or not, but boy, that's cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Oh, and the Omni version of this will actually put links to the websites in that you could just click on to check.
The fun thing I think also about like looking up, like travel ideas is, like if you are in a position that you're thinking about teaching a study abroad class, this is a great way to start, just getting some ideas, especially if you're looking to go, obviously, like Sarah said, you want to check to make sure that the things that are being suggested are real, but if you're starting from ground zero and you want to kind of just get some general ideas and just get going, I think it can be super helpful. I've used it a lot for trying to increase variation with my workouts. I work out from home several days a week, like in addition to teaching at the Y. And I've had a shoulder injury, so I've been looking for more variation to avoid that. And it's been super helpful, right? So if you have nothing, right, then it gives you kind of a starting point, and then you can do some more of your own research to make sure that the suggestions are legit. But if you do have like some basis of knowledge already in an area, like I found, for the more fun stuff, it's been very accurate. Yesterday I was playing around and asking for reading recommendations. It gave me a list. I like to read thrillers. So it gave me a list of thrillers, and 2 of them I had read on the list, but I absolutely hated. So I said, hey, like, can you generate some more suggestions with less predictable endings? And it gave me more, right? And one of those books I had read and really loved, so it is kind of a fun thing to do. Like we talk about work all the time, but our personal lives are a huge part of who we are as humans, right? And some of the things I think can carry over, it makes your work life a little bit easier if you don't have to think about what you're having for dinner every night of the week, right? Or like figuring out like how to get your kids to eat something beyond macaroni and cheese, like I hear you. All right, anybody online want to share anything that you played with, or are we ready to move on to the next one? Okay. So,
Feel free to interrupt by
yes.
turning your mics on at any time.
Yes. So the last one that I want to focus on for today is one that I kind of stumbled upon, which is called Pi. Oh, I was just gonna go out of it.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Pi.ai. And I think that this one is really interesting because I'm going to show you the homepage in a second. This is another free one. You do put in, like, I connected it to my Google account, but this one markets itself as being useful, friendly, and fun. So Allison and I were playing around with this one a little while ago. And it's got all kinds of stuff on its page. And the way that this one is set up is a little bit more unique, I think, than some of the other ones, right? So the cool thing about this one as well is that it has a voice. And like you can do voice stuff with the paid versions of ChatGPT and Claude, but this one has the voice sort of like built in, which I thought was really interesting. So here are some of the things, you know, that this website advertises, but I want to show it to you because I think it's really unique and interesting. Okay. So this is what the homepage of Pi AI looks like. And if you want, so like right over here, there's the little voice icon. So if you click on this, then it will talk to you.
Exit to reshare with audio turned on, so people.
Oh, crud. Okay.
Sorry about that. That just takes a second. I can.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're going to stop the share for a second.
Is it not working anyway?
We were sharing.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, stop share right there.
Stop share,
Yeah.
okay. And then we're gonna share again. And this time with, oops, we're going to start the share with audio with, there we go.
Share sound. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you. I freeze under pressure.
Sorry.
All right, so let's turn it on. And then,
Hey there, great to meet
the
you.
interesting
I'm
thing
Pi,
is that
your
you
personal
click
AI.
down and then
My
you
goal is to be
choose,
useful,
like,
friendly,
what
and
you want it to
fun.
sound like.
Ask
So,
me for advice, for answers, or
Jill,
let's
can you
talk
give me a
about
number
whatever's
between
on
1
your
and 8?
mind. How's your day going?
Hey there, great to meet you. I'm Pi,
Don't embarrass
your
me.
personal AI. My goal is to be useful, friendly, and fun. Ask
can
me
I
for
hear
advice,
you?
for answers, or let's talk about whatever's on your mind. How's your day
You
going?
hear it online.
Oh,
Huh.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, because we can hear them.
yeah. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Voices did change too when you did that.
Oh, okay. What do you sound like, Deb?
The first one was like a British sounding man, and the second one was sort of a more gentle sounding woman.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, these probably don't have sound.
Oh, it might
on
not.
the Computer. If you do it on your own laptop, it should.
Yeah.
work.
So anyway, so I'm going to turn it off just so it's not distracting for the people online. But anyway, so you've got all of these different options and you can choose what you want it to sound like, which I think is kind of fun and whatever. But anyway, so like over here off to the left, there are all of these topics and you can just go through and scroll down and you'll notice, right, that they're all varied and they do change. You know, like some of them I've noticed have kind of stayed the same, some of the topics. So like this one I've noticed has come up a few times, like foods for better gut health. I think journaling comes up pretty often. You can have Pi pick your DJ name if anybody would like that to happen. You know, plan your mini breaks. So like this one has come up a few times. I've noticed the psychology of colors. But, you know, you go through and it's a really interesting kind of setup, I think. But I wonder how much, you know, like our students would be drawn to something like this, you know, with things like, you know, boost your productivity and steps to mindfulness. And then it's got other things also that will take you to the web, you know, like if we click on this one, the 10 most watched YouTube videos, in case anybody was wondering, Baby Shark is #1.
I love Baby Shark.
So does my daughter. So, you know, you can go through. Good job, Ed Sheeran. So there's that. And I don't know, it's just kind of like a fun tool, right? And, you know, it's meant to, and like, if you go to your, you know, like to your day, right? I might just be able to click discover again to go back. You know, like, and you say like, my goal is to be useful, friendly and fun, you know, like, how's your day going? It's okay. I don't know, what's something that's wrong with you today?
I don't know.
I'm feeling, you have a headache? Feeling a headache? Come on. It's only Wednesday. I don't know. Like there are emojis.
You can have a whole conversation.
Yeah, you can have a whole, you know,
It's
and
like the old Eliza, except better.
yeah. So it's just kind of like a fun tool, right, to mess around with. But you know, I did think that this one's approach was really interesting, and a little bit different from some of the other ones.
And if you want to explore more AI tools, there's a website called There's an App for That, which lists hundreds of thousands of different, or at least tens of thousands of different AI tools, and the number is exploding. So you can find AI tools for practically anything. And a lot of the tools we use are already AI-based. That Amazon has been using AI for recommendations for quite a while, so that you don't have to come here to find book recommendations. Or Netflix is really good at recommending other things. You just watch this, you may want to do that. You may want to watch this next, and so forth. But there's AI tools for practically everything, and it's becoming integrated more and more. When we were at the AI symposium, some of us were at a focus group where we talked to people from Brightspace, where they were showing the AI tools that will be coming out for Brightspace right now that are in beta testing, where you can define a block of content or text or readings, and it will generate different types of assignments or questions for you based on that. So you can use it for that purpose. Many of us use the iClicker Cloud, and that now is again in beta, giving you some abilities to generate automatic questions from some content that you can use to either do quizzes or to call students in class. And assuming that this all comes, everything in testing comes forward, in large classes, what many of us do is we'll ask students how they're doing or what concerns they have, what they're struggling with, and they'll type in short responses. And what I did when I had 300 to 400 students is I generate a word cloud to see what words were coming in. But with AI analysis, it can take all those inputs and almost instantly generate a summary of common themes. So it can give you an outline of what issues students are having, what their concerns are, what's working well, what's not working well, which in large classes is a great way to get nearly instantaneous feedback. Actually, Derek Ruff did something similar during his closing address at CIT, where he did that using the polling software he was using, but he had to extract it from the spreadsheet and then dump it into ChatGPT, I think it was, to generate a summary, but it's really useful. One other thing, this is kind of the border between work and that, when you get course evaluations, if you get a lot of written comments, you can dump them all into an AI tool and ask for a summary of evaluations. So you don't have to go through and look at each of them, because when we look at each of them, we tend to focus on the negative ones a little bit more. And even if it's only 1 out of 20 or 1 out of 40, those are the ones we tend to remember the most. But when you get an overall summary, that could be a little bit more pleasant perhaps.
Sort of like, like if you've been shopping on Amazon lately, you know what I mean? And I like to read the reviews even when they're really mixed of different things, right? And now Amazon has, like that AI generated summary of like all of the reviews, which I find to be pretty handy. It's just a kind of a similar idea, a way to collate a bunch of information and give you kind of like a general sense of what something is saying or what something is doing.
And if you have the tool set up in Google, when you do a search for reviews for something, it will automatically generate a summary of those reviews, which automates that process, beyond what might be done within the company itself.
So we're just about at the end. Did anybody have any questions or statements or comments or anything for us?
For reflections or other suggestions on how people can use this.
I have a question about the difference between the paid and the free versions. And you were saying that the paid versions are higher quality or will give better results.
They have more features, basically.
Yeah.
With Claude, you can read in with the paid version, the equivalent of several books worth of inputs, and you don't have the same restriction on the number of prompts or the number of images generated and so forth. With the paid version, that's either unlimited or for practical purposes, unlimited. With ChatGPT, the main difference is with the new version is you will have visual recognition from the phone, be able to identify things in real time that it sees on the phone camera, and can talk to you and hold conversations with you. But otherwise, a lot of the features will be rolling out to everybody. So typically what happens is the paid version is just 6 months to a year ahead of the free version. So what you have is what the paid versions were like 6 months to a year ago, which actually can be rather dramatic differences in terms of given how rapidly these tools evolve. One other thing is that iOS is working on an arrangement with OpenAI to build ChatGPT into, or a version of ChatGPT into iPhones that will reside entirely on the phone. I don't know quite how it does this because there's a massive amount of computing power going behind all this. Maybe for more complex searches, it goes back and connects with it. But the plan at least is to roll this out in the fall on new phones or recent phones. So,
No, I saw that.
but if you haven't tried the phone apps, I'd encourage it. Even the free versions. Well, I don't think there is one for Claude, but there is one
Yeah.
for
ChatGPT, there is.
I think we also have, I think I put in links in the resources here to. Unfortunately, I didn't put a link to the resource page, but we can hop to it because it's in this folder. And I believe. I guess there wasn't very much more. Okay, never mind. One thing we didn't mention is if you use Canva for image creation, it's a really nice tool. Even the free version is pretty good. A number of us pay for an annual subscription to it, but they have a tool called Magic Media, which basically embeds DALL-E into Canva. So, and Canva is an incredibly powerful tool to create images, icons, logos.
I like Canva a lot.
Yeah, it's one of the most popular tools for infographic creation or for many other things. And now with Magic Media, which was just added in the last couple of months, you give it a text prompt and it generates the image. And then you can modify those images. It's basically connected to DALL-E. But it's actually, even with a free plan, you can get a limited number of images generated. And you get a lot more if you have a paid plan version. Secondary teachers, it's free. For college, you have to pay. I think it's about $100 a year, maybe 75.
I don't know if we have questions in the chat. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Good.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions, suggestions?
Very cool. Oh, I have a question. So, I was told that, anything you put into one of these is saved by these things or used in, like, so to be
So be careful with
considerate of
Yes.
confidential information.
Yes, if you're using any of the commercial, we talked about that in one section, but if you're using any of the commercial providers, ChatGPT, Claude, or any of the others, anything you put in could become part of their training database or used for modification. So if you put in information about students, that could be information they may not want shared out there. You know, if you go to Claude and Claude's still here.
Yeah.
Let's say provide. No, where is it? Not for provide a biography, let's say. Stephanie. Pritchard.
Stephanie, who?
I don't know.
That's what it's gonna say.
Let's see what it was. Oh, so apparently you've been careful about not putting, I mean, I haven't tried this in Claude myself. So let me try,
Well, she's not a highly well-known public figure.
It's true.
That doesn't mean she's.
I think it'll do you.
it probably will.
Yeah,
No,
we'll probably get John.
let me see. I haven't tried it in Claude.
You might have to give it more also,
Okay,
like you
yeah.
might have to say like at SUNY Oswego or
Yeah.
something like that, yeah.
Nice hockey player, I didn't know.
As I said.
And an artist, known for his landscape painting.
No.
No.
Tells you a lot about us, we don't know.
But now, if you go to, if you go, I tried this in ChatGPT.
Yeah,
It is about 2 or 3 page biography from,
yep,
you know, it has links to citation in this Weagle Daily and
yep,
press releases and other things.
Yeah.
Yep.
Various times and awards I had gotten.
yep,
It's, that's partly the difference between the free and the paid. version.
yep. Yeah, it knew me also in the paid version. So I think it's just, you know, the quality of the output and the search power as well. Yep. Anyway, do you have another session?
Not until.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Well, no, stop holding. Stop holding for it. But, I encourage you. like,
Thank you.
things are doing. Yes. Remember? Okay.
Cool.
Stop recording.